It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
Hey, folks, welcome to the program. Thanks so much for being with us. This is hour number 2. My name is Paul. You have found the intersection of conservative ideas and reality. We had big news yesterday. We covered it all last hour. If you haven't listened to the Hour 1 podcast, you need to. We brought you the audio from the Marble Palace. We brought you the news on the federal judge striking down the work requirements for Arkansas Works. What is the state going to do now? And here to talk more about that with us, we have State Representative Dan Sullivan in studio here as we broadcast from Little Rock. Dan, welcome, sir.
Thank you, Paul. Good to be with you again.
It's always great to have you on, sir.
Especially when we had such exciting news.
I know. It is exciting news. So I guess it's kind of one of those questions. Where were you when you found out that, the Arkansas Works program, something that, people have spent the last 4 years kind of building up, renaming the old program that people didn't like? Where were you when you found out that the federal judge said no more?
The place you'll always remember. Yes, I was just getting out of committee, and we just finished with committee and headed back home when I got the news.
And which committee was that?
Education. And of course, we were in session about the time it came out, and we all got text messages blew up. And still trying to get more information this morning.
Yeah, what does it exactly mean, and where do we go from here? I think it's a lot. Now, it was just it was a major coincidence that right before the ruling went down, the Senate had a pretty good debate, at least. Senator Trent Garner, Bob Ballinger, Kim Hammer raising some good questions. But they had a debate and went ahead and passed the budget to fund Arkansas Works right before a ruling came down saying no work requirements are allowed anymore. It's illegal. Now that goes to the House. So what are your thoughts on that?
Well, first of all, it's always fun to speculate. But, regardless of what the speculation is of why we did it, what we're doing, the reality is now we come to the House. And I was here and listening to the debate with you in the Senate about how important a vote is and the people that elected me and the other representatives, how important it is for us to vote and represent them on these big decisions. I think the first point I'd say is about not panicking. We don't have to panic, and we need to go as quickly, not panic, but we have to remember the steps that we took before that led us down this path. And we have an opportunity now to take a different path and look at how to move forward. We know our president wants to end this whole program.
President Trump
wants to, I think he's the president of everybody. Some people
he is now. There's no Russia collusion. He is your president.
He's ours. And he's wanting to roll this whole thing back. So if we know that, what steps are we going to take now? And he's been pretty successful. What steps will we take now to move in that direction? The other part that I heard in this debate, as a member of the House, you are one of 100. And if the administration doesn't need your vote, you have very little leverage. You're expected to go along with, I think that your listeners heard, you're expected to go along with whatever the committee decides, whatever the administration decides. You're expected to go along with that. And I think the House demonstrated a few days ago when we held up all appropriations, we're not willing to do that. And I hope the House will take a strong stand here and not just do what we're told or do what word is passed down from the administration or from the Senate, and stand strong until we have the information we need that we feel comfortable with to vote on this DHS budget. Because once it passes, we have no more power to change what goes on. I think Representative Ballinger or Senator Ballinger spoke to that.
Yes.
Senator Hammer spoke to that. Senator Garner spoke to that. That's all the power that we have as one of 100 is to vote as a group to say, no, we just want more information, and I'm not voting yes until I have more information out there.
Yeah.
That's critical, and I hope the House members will stand together. And I will say this for the House leadership. They have been very transparent. Our Speaker, Matt Shepard, is out there among the members. He's talking to the members. We have our leadership structure that talks to us and shares information. So I really appreciate that. And so my comments are in no way disparage our House leadership. But they'll need to understand, too, that I, as an individual representative of my district, want to have the knowledge that I need to be confident we're going to go forward in a direction that I see and view that represents my people.
Yeah.
And that's not a promise. That is the real data and the real information and public statements as to where we're going so that people will be accountable.
It seems like if you go listen to Senator Hendren's comments from yesterday on the floor, he said several times, look, we've only got 12 days left of the session. Well, if you got to stay down there longer to get it right, I mean, the judge did what the judge did. I mean, in my opinion, you've thrown a wrench in the entire session because now you guys do have constitutional power and you have the ability to say, okay, whoa. I mean, how often does a problem arise in the middle of session? A lot of the times we've seen this before where the books get cooked. We didn't know about redeterminations, for example, 4 years ago, 3 years ago, not being done until after you guys were out of session. You know what I mean?
Well, matter of fact, Paul, I was the chair of the Medicaid subcommittee on audit when we found out that we had 20 or 30,000 people in 1 year that were living in other states that we had been paying $500 or $600 a month for 15 or 16, 18,000 people. We didn't find that out for 3 or 4 years after the program.
Yeah, exactly.
And Medicaid said, oh, sorry, it was just a glitch when they hadn't done their job. So when we roll up all the cost in the waste, the fraud, and the abuse, it may be time to make some determinations now that we go with Josh Miller's bill.
Yes.
Josh has a bill out there to move away from this program, go back to a fee-for-service, and take a step in a different direction. And, as far as 12 days left in the session, we don't have to solve this problem in 12 days, but I want some public promises, and I want some guarantees that are where people will be held accountable for the direction we're going to go. So for someone to come to me privately and say, Dan, we promise you that we're going to do this, vote yes, and we'll do A, B, C, D. I'm just not there. I want some confidence that we're going to change the direction we're in because we certainly know what we've been doing has not worked. We are pulling money from other programs. I have a meeting later this morning with DHS about Our Choices, the program that takes care of our elderly. And we have cut those programs significantly and made some good choices in that, I'll say. But we've also kind of lost sight of who the most needy are. And we're taking care of people who are able-bodied, working-age adults. We're taking care of them. And the people that we're missing are some of the most needy people and deserving people in the state of Arkansas.
Yeah.
And are we going to change that direction, or are we going to continue down this path? And I will not vote for a program that doesn't prioritize the people who are most needy in our state.
Exactly. And if we go back, I mean, if you have any sort of memory at all, you'll remember that they cut $835 million. They call it savings, but they took that from the needy population so that they can pay for this expanded population, and we still can't afford it. I mean, you've been on the program before. We're talking with State Representative Dan Sullivan. They said that this year the estimate was from the government we were supposed to spend $50 million this year, our share, the state share on the match that the federal government was paying for this program, and we're spending 138, almost 140 million this year instead. So their estimates are way off. And now that there are no work requirements moving forward, you got to assume the program's going to balloon back up to where it was, 300,000 people.
Absolutely. And those are the kinds of assurances that I need, not just a promise, Dan, don't worry, vote with us. Those are the kinds of promises that I need publicly, where people will be held accountable at all levels, at the Senate, at the House, and in the administration, that we're going to change this path. Again, to prioritize the people who are most needy in our state, that we have a moral obligation to take care of and help, and we have a fiscal responsibility there also. So I'm going to need some assurances of that. And if someone comes to me and says, Dan, vote for this program, don't worry about it. I'm just not going to be able to do that, and I hope the House will stand up.
Let's talk about Josh Miller's bill. I think it's HB, just going off memory, 1929 sounds right. It's a bill, like you said, that would keep Medicaid expansion, but it would just end the Blue Cross Blue Shield's tax. I mean, we would no longer use private insurance. It would just be the way it originally was under Obamacare, which is the state of Arkansas doesn't pay a dime unless somebody actually goes and gets medical care.
Right.
At this point, that is now, by the book, by the numbers, demonstrably less expensive than what we're doing now, right?
Yeah, and I think those costs, I don't think those costs include the waste, fraud, and abuse.
You're right.
How much have we spent in computer software, changing programs and losing people? We spent a tremendous amount of money there. I think we guarantee the insurance company a 20% margin on that, on their cost, on their profit. 20% of that is guaranteed profit. And to take a look at what a fee-for-service program would look like now that we've had 4 or 5 years of programs that's on the books, that we can look at what those numbers are and now compare them directly, not projected numbers, but real numbers on what it's cost us to what the real numbers were on a fee-for-service. And we just need to take a look at that. Now, whether we do that in the next 12 days may not be completely possible, but we've got some pretty good estimates on that now. We've looked at that before. And hopefully Josh will have an opportunity to bring his bill to the floor and really have that debate and be transparent in what opportunities are. I voted no on the highway program, the governor's highway bill.
Mm-hmm.
There were 4 or 5 other bills out there that had, Julie Mabry's, Representative Mabry's bill, several other bills out there. We didn't really have a chance to debate those. We were just
There was only
told,
one plan. Yeah,
we were just told, vote for this or don't vote for it. We're not going to debate other plans. And I hope your listeners will help share that word. There were options out there, not just the one plan. We just didn't get to debate them. Well, now with Arkansas Works, we have a chance to debate what we're going to do going forward. And as your listeners heard in the Senate, people were going to use their vote to hold this budget up to have that debate. And I think this is a great debate to have, and I hope the listeners will call their representatives and ask them to hold everyone accountable, that we have debates over multiple solutions, because there's not just one solution.
Yeah. Well, the whole debate, from what I can tell, I agree with what you're saying, Dan. I think it's great. There has not been, it seems like, the willingness to do what you say in a very, very long time,
Well, it takes you got to have, you have to have 26 votes to stop it.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult. When I came into the House 2 sessions ago, we had 40 people said they were going to stand up. We had a couple of votes, and by the end, I think there were 15 or 16 left. Yeah. And so there's just a lot of pressure to take the solution that's handed down without having a very transparent debate. And sometimes those happen behind the scenes, and I'm okay with that. However, those negotiations that are behind the scenes, they need to be transparent at some point too. You see a lot of FOI bills coming out now. I think we got one on the floor coming up really soon. People want to know what's behind the scenes. They want transparency out there, and the people deserve that. That's our form of government.
We're talking with State Representative Dan Sullivan. If you're just joining us, I'll go over a few of these headlines here. And Dan, can you stay down to the bottom of the hour?
Sure.
Okay. So we have this headline here. We have a judge, Arkansas Medicaid work rule blocked as budget bill weighed. A judge blocked Arkansas's work requirement, according to the Associated Press, for its Medicaid expansion. Republican Governor Asa Hutchinson said he was disappointed in the federal court ruling against the work requirements. Of course, this is a ruling against Arkansas and Kentucky. The ruling came out, coincidentally, shortly after the state Senate narrowly voted to keep Medicaid expansion another year. I mean, that is an incredible coincidence. Jim Hendren again, quote, "I don't think there's any reason for the state to panic, he said, at this. Then, of course, you have the Gazette article, which is written by Andy Davis, headline Judge Voids Medicaid Work Mandate. Hutchinson said in a statement that he was disappointed in the decision and would discuss it and the future of the Arkansas Works requirement at a news conference today. So there is going to be some talk about this today. I would expect that, that we just kind of put our heads down and, I don't know, maybe create another task force and figure out. I mean, seriously, I don't expect there to be anything there because, well, I guess we're about to figure out whether or not, you know, do we just support was Arkansas Works really just about a name change, just a way to keep the insurance companies happy, to keep all these big companies happy, you know, or because I don't know. There's a whole lot of questions out there about this. And we're going to take a break. We're going to reset here. But that's the news out of Little Rock yesterday, and we will see. The Kentucky governor, Matt Bevin, says the work requirement struck down. He's going to just end the program altogether now. That's what Kentucky Matt Bevin has said, the governor over there. So we'll see. We got to take a break. Back in a moment.
They use the same fiscal impact of this $47 million total, 35 to the state. Paul, it just doesn't make sense. That was the big discussion point is, hey, we want to get these third-party sellers because that's going to be even more money. At the end of the day, what this bill does, it grows government at all levels, the state, the county, the city. People voted really recently, Paul, in Northwest Arkansas, over in Fort Smith, up in Greene County. They said no more taxes. Worthy causes, they say, we're taxed enough already. Find the money somewhere else. You have enough money, reprioritize it. This is a tax increase on the people and grows government at all levels.
And there's no way around that. There's no way around that. And I don't know how. I have this session I have tried so hard to see the positives, call them out when I can. But if that number at the end of the day, when they're done, Josh, if it
exposing the truth and everything the Marble Palace establishment keep trying to cover up. It's Conduit News Radio with Paul Harrell.
All right, here we go. We're back here with State Representative Dan Sullivan. We're talking about this ruling that has come down. Your colleague, State Representative Stephen Meeks, Republican from Greenbrier, said that he supported Arkansas Works and has voted for it, Medicaid expansion, because of the work requirements. The paper reporting here, Representative Stephen Meeks said the addition of the work requirement helped secure his support for Medicaid expansion. And he says, quote, I'll definitely be looking at it a little harder now that the requirement has been removed. So how many of your colleagues, Dan, kind of came on board with this Arkansas Works, this renaming of the program, adding the work requirements, who now might be thinking, well, now it's just the program that we ran against. How many Republicans campaigned against it, you know? And so what do you think?
I think everybody campaigns against it.
Yeah, that's true.
And then when they get it down here in Little Rock, they necessarily have to have a little bit different perspective. I understand that. And, you know, as we were talking during the break, you know, this is going to be about the House standing together to be a part of the conversation. We can either do what we're told, or we can stand together and make ourselves be a part of that conversation, just like happened last week with Representative Payton's bill on reducing the continued tax we have on used cars. You know, these used cars are sold 3 or 4 or 5 times. They finally get down to $7,500, and you're still paying taxes on it. So the House had, I think, and you had this on your program, we had 80-some sponsors on it, and we couldn't get it heard. We couldn't get it moved forward through the administration. I don't think supported it, or at least I didn't know if they supported it, but apparently we couldn't get it moving. And the House stood together and voted down, used the only power that we have, the power of the purse, to stand together and say, we want more information. We want to know why, and this is important for the people of Arkansas, and let's stand together, vote together until we have a true voice and impact the actions that move forward. And I hope the House will stand together in this. I hope we'll stand together and hold our power of the purse that we have to get more information and get some promises going forward.
Okay, so that's kind of the goal here is to try to figure out what direction do we go from here. Some people have said, well, maybe we can keep the work requirements and narrowly tailor them to what the judge is ruling, so it still fits into the judge's ruling. And I'm thinking, well, the work requirements are kind of not really requirements right now anyway. I mean, eventually you get kicked off the program, I guess, but there's a lot of ways to exempt yourself.
Well, yeah, and if the goal of the work requirement was to eliminate people from the program, I mean, you can say all you want, but that was the goal because we couldn't afford it. Mm-hmm. And we had to come up with a strategy to take people off of the program.
That is an honest assessment.
And the work requirement was the easiest way to do that. And then we tailored that to meet what we thought was the law at that time. But now it's no longer the law. So are we going to continue the program and figure out some new nuances to limp along, or are we going to go in a new direction? Our president has said he's going in a new direction. So we can go against our president, or we can go with him. Our former president, President Obama, made his rulings or had his program, and we said make lemonade out of lemonade, or lemonade out of lemons. I know you had an earlier description of that, but now we've got an opportunity to do something different. And I hope the House will stand together and take that opportunity and be a part of what all those decisions are and all those opportunities are.
And you mentioned the president. At least the reporting is that the Trump administration hasn't said if they will appeal this ruling. And I would imagine the answer is no from the Trump administration, because they're saying that they're not appealing the other ruling that just kind of nicks the entire law. So, I mean, what happens? See, Dan, I'm so glad that you've been consistent. We have a possibility in the very near future. We've got about a minute and a half where this entire law is struck. This entire law goes away. If the entire law goes away, Medicaid expansion goes away. And it's people like you who've been consistently opposed to this program that, in my opinion, are in the perfect position to lead us out of this mess if or when it happens.
Yeah, two things. Our president doesn't go small. Our president doesn't do nuances and doesn't take small steps. Our president goes big in a strong conservative direction.
You were at the White House last week too, weren't you?
I was there. Yeah, that was really neat. And another example, one of the students said, we don't need new laws to uphold our constitutional rights. And the president said, amen, you're right. Yeah. And I'm going big that way. And he did. We need to understand that same principle right here in the state. This is the time to go big, not nuance and not slip into changes, but go big and recognize where our president is going and follow that lead.
I'm kicking myself for just remembering that you were at the White House last Thursday for this freedom of speech, and you've been a champion of that here in Arkansas, passing that law, sponsoring that to try to restore freedom of speech at our college campuses. Dan Sullivan, I appreciate it, sir. It's always great to have you on.
Good to be here.
All right, folks, we're going to be right back with State Representative Ken Bragg. Don't go anywhere.